United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, thank you very much indeed for joining us on SABC News. At the very onset, could you give us your expectations? What do you hope to see at the end of this climate change conference here in Durban?
I believe that the Durban COP17 conference should achieve 4 expectations. First, we have to establish the implementations of all the agreement which was adopted in Cancun last year, including the adaptation framework and its committees, and also technological transfer network and center. Secondly, there should be a clear guidelines for the future of Kyoto Protocol. This is the institution which is the rule-based systems, and we have to do all what we can so that we cannot leave any vacuum between Kyoto Protocol first requirement and the second commitment, and that they should find out some way forward. And I believe that member states are positively agreeing to that. And thirdly, more importantly, climate change financing, short-term and long-term financial support for developing world. In Copenhagen 2009, member states have agreed to pledge $30 billion by the end of next year and $100 billion by 2020. There must be some clear guidelines. And fourthly, we should not forsake our joint vision of achieving a comprehensive and legally binding treaty. And these are 4 expectations which I have in Durban.
You touched on a few in terms of the Green Climate Fund and the Kyoto Protocol. I want to come back to that. I just want to take you to a very important initiative, I understand, that's going to be launched here. It's called the Momentum for Change. How important is this initiative, especially for Africa?
African countries are the ones who are most impacted. I have seen so many countries, particularly in Sahel areas. They are the ones who have not contributed to this climate change phenomenon, but they are the first and worst hit. And therefore, it is important to keep up this momentum. That is why I'm going to participate in this keep up the momentum with the world leaders. We have to do more for African people because they do not have necessary resources and capacity. They should have financial resources and technological support so that they can mitigate and adapt to this climate change phenomenon.
Well, talking about mitigation and adaptation, the Green Climate Fund is there for that. It's meant for helping developing countries. The COP president seems to be confident that we can get a finalization here in Durban. Do you share her views?
It's very encouraging to know that member states are positively addressing this issue. There was an agreement in principle last year in Cancun, and we have to make this Green Climate Fund launched here in Durban this time and make it operational.
Do you think people from developing nations will be more conducive to fighting climate change, knowing that very well they will be reducing poverty at the same time?
This climate change is accelerating much, much faster than one may expect. Therefore, the developing world, who have not done much to the climate change phenomenon, should have a moral and political voice. They should speak out. And it has been my consistent message that this climate change campaign should be led by the developed world, who have historical legacy as well as who have a capacity to address these issues. That is the main message, and I'm sure that member states will agree on that principle.
Mr. Ban Ki-moon, economic, social, and environmental concerns are often inseparable. How important is sustainable development in this day and age?
international community has been dealing with many global challenges, climate change. In UNFCCC, we have been suffering from food crisis, nutrition crisis, water shortages, and energy shortages. And many people have been dying from preventable diseases. These are all interconnected problems. Therefore, if we are able to address the climate change or energy issues, then we'll be able to address most of the crises altogether. That is why we are promoting to achieve sustainable development. Sustainable development will be top priority of the United Nations for coming many years. The Rio Plus 20 summit meeting, which will be held in Rio de Janeiro June next year, thus will be very important for the humanity.
Let's just look at the issue of climate finance and curbing emissions. Bringing back to the Kyoto Protocol, how important is it to get a second commitment or even another binding deal right here in Durban?
This Kyoto Protocol has been built up during the last 2 decades. This is the only institution. This is the only rules-based systems by which people have been committed. Therefore, we should not leave any vacuum between first commitment and second commitment. I would urge member states would come out for way forward for Kyoto Protocol. I'm encouraged that member states are positively engaged and discussing this matter to find a way forward, not to leave any vacuum.
What's your gut feeling, though? Do you think it's possible?
I think it will be possible, but the member states should really address this issue with a sense of commitment that before we will be able to have comprehensive legally binding treaty, then this Kyoto Protocol will be a guiding framework.
If we don't get that commitment, what's your biggest fear?
We do not work for that kind of scenario, so we are working for positive way forward.
How radical should cuts be? We know scientists talking about this 2-degree threshold that we need to keep. How radical do you think cuts should be?
Whether it should be radical or not, I think one important message is that we must be bold and ambitious. Otherwise, you will not be able to address this climate change phenomenon, which is accelerating much, much faster. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has strongly recommended that member states should reduce greenhouse gas emissions at least by 25 to 40% compared with the level of 1990. It may be hard, but that is the minimum benchmark which member states have to achieve. We have to work very hard, and all the countries should look beyond their national border. This is a global challenge affecting whole global aspect. We have only one planet Earth. This is the planet Earth which we have to preserve environmentally hospitable, environmentally sustainable way.
Well, there's a prediction by 2050 we could see the world's population increase to around 9 billion. Do you think there's too many people using too many resources too quickly?
October 31st this year, we have welcomed the 7 billionth citizen. So 7 billion means we have to change the whole of our life pattern to address from food issues, water, energy, and sanitation, and infrastructures. So So by 2050, that we will have a 50% increase in population. By that time, we will have to cut at least by 50% these greenhouse gas emissions. That is what I have been calling it 50-50-50 challenge. So we have to address this issue from now. The time for action is now.
And just finally, you start off your second term as the United Nations Secretary General next year. What are some of the main focus areas for you?
The sustainable development, in which we can address climate change, water scarcity, energy shortages, and food crisis, gender empowerment, and global health issues, and healthy ocean. These are the most important ones, which need to be addressed more comprehensively from a broader perspective in an integrated way. That will be our top priority. And I will also try my best to prevent man-made and natural disaster. We may not be able to predict the earthquake or tsunamis, but depending upon how you prepare against this natural disaster, we can save many, many more human lives whose life could have been saved. This is prevention, preventive diplomacy, and we will try to make this world more peaceful, more prosperous, where all the people, rich and small, rich and poor, small and big, men and women, can live without fear of a want, without fear of a threat.
United Nations Secretary General Blain Herman, thank you very much indeed for joining us on SABC News.
Thank you very much.